Hello everyone, glad you can join me from everywhere where you are, around the world and in America. I thought this was very important, and this is an important time in our communities, an important time in America, and an important time in NBA history. So I just thought it was really evident that I should come on and maybe give some of my thoughts, my opinions, and also some solutions to what could happen and what should happen. And obviously, you've seen the post, if you have been there, about State of the Union address and black players in the NBA. Well, first of all, I just want you to know that this is an inclusion. This is an inclusion of all people. And it's important that we all understand what's going on in our society, what's going on in America, and how we can help individually. So this inclusion is very important. I was fortunate enough to play with Bill Russell, who's probably one of the greatest basketball players to ever play. And one day we were sitting on the back of the bus and we were arguing about players, and then on the plane rather, and we were arguing about players that were coming into the country from overseas. And I said, Coach, there's got to be a guy in Alabama who's just as good as a guy in Germany. Why are you going all the way over there? And he stopped me right there. And he said, Kenny, inclusion is something that an African American can never not want. So right there, he taught me a basketball lesson, but he also taught me a life lesson about inclusion of all people and everything that could happen. So this message is more about inclusion, but it's very specific. It is specific to African American basketball players in the NBA and what they want to do and can do. A lot of times there are a lot of players who out in society that really want to help. However, they have no opportunity or they don't know what to do. It's different having the opportunity to do it and knowing what to do. So it's very important to have both. So what are we doing here, and how are we going to do it? I think NBA players have been poised throughout their whole life with the shot clock running down, to take the last shot or to create opportunities to know what to do during those moments. Well, this is that time. The ball is in your hand, and 24-second clock is running down, and it's now time to be poised to understand what you can do and how you can make a difference in everything that goes on. I don't really think there's a coincidence that the week that the NBA signs record contracts and salaries, that we have such civil unrest within South America in the black community. I don't think that's an accident. I think that it's proportionately correct on how it's happening, and it really brings everyone's antennas up and has them understand in our community what needs to be done and what should be done. But I think to understand how to help, I think the first thing you have to do, you have to understand the problem. And if you don't understand the problem, it's difficult to help. So I liken it or compare it to, let's say, a beach. When you're on a beach and there's a wave coming in, the wave is really easy to see, and a lot of times you can brace yourself for the wave. You can hide from the wave, you can run from the wave, or you can stop the wave at times and sometimes and block it in and help yourself. But the undercurrent is much more difficult. It pulls you in. A lot of people don't see it happening, and all of a sudden it could be deadly. And that's what I think what's going on in America right now, and a lot of times it's important. We are in a societal undercurrent. Trying to figure out how to get pulled up in certain instances or to pull down. So a wave would be things that you've probably seen before on television in the 60s and the civil rights, segregation, no black allowed signs and all of those things. That's a wave. Everyone could see that. Everyone could see it and say that's right or that's wrong. But an undercurrent is something different. Undercurrent might be, police brutality. Undercurrent might be ownership of businesses. Undercurrent might be murder rates in society and in communities. So those things that are undercurrent, a lot of times you don't see on a daily basis and can make a difference and try to make a difference on. So I'm here to talk about the societal undercurrent and how we can change the society undercurrent. But to do that, I really think it's important that we acknowledge a couple of things. We have to acknowledge the fact that there is a fear of African American men by the police force. This right now seems to be, we're talking about a police matter, and as I go further on, this is bigger than a police matter, honestly. But we have to acknowledge that there is a fear. It's not my opinion, this is just the facts. 558 deaths last year came on the hands of police so far this year. I think up to 588, 114 were African American. These are just facts. So there's a theory or belief that to diffuse a situation, that using force on African American men is one of the solution or the main solution. This is just facts. This is nothing, so it's a disproportional rate. And I say it's disproportional because, African American people or people of color, we make up 12 to 13% of U.S. and only 48%, 6% is actually men. So 6% being men, 114 deaths out of 558 is disproportionate. The numbers are just disproportionate. So the way you're handling of things are being handled by by police officers are just inaccurate. So, that's the first thing. And I think we also have to acknowledge in our community that there's a lack of trust for police officers. And you say, well, why is there a lack of trust? Because honestly, there's never been, and these are not my opinion, these are facts, there's never been a long stint where people can say, well, the police have been in our communities on our side. And it's just accurate. I could point back, there's, my relatives growing up, they were denied going to school by the police, by the judicial system. They were denied equal rights in certain things, denied by the police, by the judicial system, all through this era. Then we watch, going on today, into Eric Gardner, we go on to Trayvon Martin, and so on and so forth. We go on to Rodney King. So there's a distrust of the judicial system and how it works and the police in our communities. That's just a fact. It's not my opinion. And because there's never been a stint that they can point to and we can point to and say, well, it's been accurate and it's been working and it's been fine. So in regard to that, it makes a powder keg situation when you have distrust and you have the opportunity to never acknowledge that there's a fear. So the first thing I think is actually an acknowledgement that, there's been a disproportional rate of people of color, especially African Americans in this country, that have not worked. There has to be an acknowledgement of that. And once the acknowledgement comes, then you can come to solution. And honestly, as an NBA player, because I am talking still to my NBA players first and foremost, it's not your burden to bear to have trust proven. Meaning, if I don't trust someone, it's not up to me to give a solution for you to trust me. It's up for you as a police officer, judicial system, to come and give us an opportunity to say, here's a reason why you should trust me. Here's a reason why you should trust me. Again, 558 deaths, 114 of them being African American, disproportionate rate. And I'll give you just one more instant and statistic about that, because we're in the NBA and we love statistics. We love things that kind of go our way, and from rebounds to assist to points. So here's another stat. In the first 24 days of this last year, more people died in America by the hands of police than in 24 years in England. 24 days, 24 years. So there's a disproportional rate, and a lot of those being African American, there's a disproportional rate of how to diffuse situations with our police force. But again, I keep saying that this war is not just on black people, it's on poor people, and it's on poor people of color, particularly, specific to them. So it's, again, this war is not on black people, it's a poor people, specific to those of color. So I think that one thing I say, well, what do you do if you're an NBA player, because I have a lot of NBA players that I know, past, present, and future, that want to help and want to do things. But a lot of times they just don't know how. They're like, how do I do it? What do I do? I know how to become a great in this regard as a professional basketball player, but I might not know how to be great in becoming a great civil rights movement person or a person in my community to make an impact. Well, the first thing we have to do is we have to realize that to make a difference, and this is unfortunately true. We talk about all lives matter, and how lives matter is more important. How lives matter is through education and social economic power, period. If you have social and economic power and education power, you become important. Unfortunately, that's the way we are in the society that we live in. So now, I gave you those rates. 6% of the country is African American. Disproportionate rate of African Americans going to prison at 40%, make up 40% of the prisons. I could give you all kinds of stats. But those 6% of African American men make up 74% of the NBA. 6% of the country make up 74% of the NBA. 74% of the NBA that it has an availability of $90 million per team in salary cap. Again, I go back. I don't think that there was an accident. Some of the biggest contracts were signed this week, and I'm ecstatic for these players that are getting it. But there comes a responsibility and a social economic responsibility with that. And I'm sorry, it has to be you. But it is you. Because if you make up 74% of the NBA, of the $90 million per team that is available, that means you are the richest black men in the country in your group. Your group is the richest black men in the country as a group. So now you have social and economic power, and you have educational power that you can do. So one of the things is, this today was about, everyone said, why are you doing it and what it's about? It's about coming up with ideas, coming up with solutions, and provoking thought. And some of the things that I will put together a committee to help you and point you in direction to help you help your communities that you live in, that you have an obligation to do. And well, how do you do that? I say this, I'm going to put a real big burden on you. You have to donate, you have to allocate, not donate, not give away, 10% of your salary. You give 10% to your agent, and all he does is do a phone call. 10% of your salary should be allocated for programming inside the communities you live or you can affect. That's it. How simple is that? You don't know what to do? We're going to form that committee to help you, point you in direction to where you should allocate it. Or if you want to do it yourself and you have great ideas and you're great in putting things together, we'll help you put them together. That's it. Because the social economic power brings about a different mindset and a different mindset for everyone. So I think it's important that we change lives through that way. And 10% of your salary, you give to your agent. You give to your agent for making phone calls. It's important to allocate that dollars. I will work with the NBA tirelessly to have them have programs to do that. And also, your sponsors, as I conclude, your sponsors that are there, and there's a big myth that all of these guys have sponsors out there. There's only about 3% of the NBA that has real endorsement deals. The rest of the guys make far less in the endorsements they did do in their basketball. So that's a myth. So anyone who says they're scared to talk about it because of their sponsors, that's a myth because it's not actual factual. So, but you are responsible for this. We will make your sponsors go dollar for dollar for you in the programs that you support. And if they don't, that's their choice. But we need to know, and we will find out who they are. We just need to identify the people who are standing with you to social empower people, social and economically empower people, and educationally empower people, and those who aren't. You don't have to do it, but we do have to know. And that's your responsibility as an NBA basketball player. Obviously, there will be more dialogue, and anything that you need in terms of concepts, every NBA player who's watching knows how to get in touch with me. It's not hard to get in touch with me if you're an NBA player. I'm very 1 degree of separation. So I'm here for you. I'm putting together teams that are here for you to help you socially empower people that you have the ability to do that most people did not know you had. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.